So good afternoon. First, let me just thank my colleagues and my staff. People have worked so hard all summer long. I think that from the first day we got out of school, we started preparation for the new school year. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to meet Beth Phelan. She's our newest senior leadership team member, and she is over all of our business operations, including transportation and nutrition and facilities. You guys probably remember Dr. Joris. He's over our school operations and basically is in charge of making sure that our facilities are equipped and ready for instruction on day one. Chief Darling obviously is over our school services and our security. Trinnette Small is back there. She's over our HR and has done a great job really pushing the envelope on hiring. I think we've reduced our vacancies. I think we anticipate having fewer than 100 vacancies by Monday, and that's down really just over the last week or so. And then Jake is Deputy Chief of Staff, and he just helps kind of keep things going. So really at a high level, what I really want to do is just kind of brief you, and then specific questions I really turn over to my colleagues because they may know better than I do. So first, I'm just so excited. I think this is going to be a very critical year for the Shelby County Schools. This is the first year that we have a full complement of test results. You guys know in Tennessee, the year before, or year before last, they weren't able to do 3 through 8 testing only the high school. So we had the first full implementation of 10 ready. We expect to get the results in the fall. What we know is that, as with all states that implement new and higher standards, the test scores are going to go down. And then they start to go up. So we anticipate having some good data for a baseline year, and then we'll move forward. Dr. Griffin, who's over our academics, has a wonderful plan we'll be sharing with the board and the community in the next couple weeks that will set forth pretty clearly our direction as we look to make dramatic gains in student achievement. Some of the issues that I know usually are of interest to you guys, obviously staffing, and as I said, our HR team has done a great job over these past few days, and we anticipate our vacancies to be less than 100 by Monday, which will put us right around 99% staffing. Transportation, our transportation provider did a much better job last year than they had done previous years in a couple areas. First, the number of accidents went down. Secondly, the number of late arrivals went down some, and I'm very excited about some of the measures and the processes in place to make sure we tightly monitor Durham and the transportation they provide every day. They are 100% staffed. They're actually doing dry runs today, tomorrow, and Friday, I believe, so that they'll be ready for school on Monday. One of the things that we often worry about is given the heat. We always know there's going to be a school or two where there are issues with the chillers and the air conditioning units. So fortunately, the weather forecast is mild for this time of year over the next week or so. But as of now, I think there are a couple buildings where there's some air conditioning chiller issues, but we anticipate those issues to be resolved certainly by Monday. Our registration numbers, I think as of today, we were at about 56,000 students. That's up probably about 8,000 students from where we were this time last year. But there will obviously be a huge push this weekend. We'll have a big block party here, and I know several of our schools are having block parties around the city, really with an effort or focus on registering students. So we feel pretty good about where we are in that regard. Very pleased with where we are in terms of security. You guys know last year was probably one of the most violent years on record for the city of Memphis as it relates to homicides and violent crimes, where every major statistical indicator in our schools in terms of incidents was down, most of them double digits last year. So very pleased with the work that we're doing regarding student safety and school security, and expect for those kinds of results to continue. I want to recognize Board Member Love, who is here. And with that, if you guys want to ask some questions, I'll try to hit them. If they're detailed questions, I'll ask my colleagues to take a stab. So very excited about the way Ms. Phelan thinks about these things. I think that vendor management was high on her list of things to make sure we figure out how to really focus in on. So I want to ask Ms. Phelan to talk more about that.
Hi. So in regards to safety in specific, we've been working with our partner and also the Department of Transportation on trying to better align the relationship to where, we're the vendor manager of our partner and that we're accountable and that we intend to ensure that, we are enabling the partner to succeed, but also holding them accountable to the provisions in our agreement. And some of the changes that we've made specifically in regards to safety is now SCS now has visibility into the state Tennessee Department of Transportation database, so we can actually monitor directly driver compliance issues, so license, status of their license, and also background checks, and also motor vehicle record type of compliance issues. So we're now able to proactively audit those and then also work with our partner to make sure that they are within compliance.
Just to follow up on that, where were they on-time arrivals at the end of the school year last year? And is there a better way to address parent and faculty complaints as they come in?
I think that I can provide the scorecard information. I don't have that with me right now. I think that, as we move forward into this year, and I've been with the district, a short period of time, that we hope to put in practice, based on the foundation of vendor management, a way to get feedback, process feedback, and then escalate issues and work with the vendor to resolve those issues.
Dorsey, can you talk about why they were empowered zone and where it's at? New schools this year coming into it, where is that at?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bill. So Holmes Road Elementary came fully online this year. And so what that meant was that they went through a fresh start process. A new principal was selected, and they hired new teachers there. That actually is one of the schools, though, where their staffing numbers are higher than we'd like for them to be. But I think at the end of the day, all the teachers in the empowerment zone went through some intense professional development together just a few weeks ago. The community is excited as ever. The Whitehaven Leadership Council, I think, met last week for about 4 hours to give their recommendations on direction. So we are fully teed up and ready to go. So right now you have Haven View, Whitehaven, and Holmes Road with the intense support. You still have a Maceo Walker, which I think is doing pretty well. They're just kind of doing some of the common planning and haven't been fully enveloped into the empowerment zone. But we're still waiting, Bill, for the ESSA plan to be finalized. I think we anticipate, I guess, to be buttoned up in September, because what we want to do is, based on the dollars that are available and sort of final judgments, we want to then submit the application to the state for final approval as the statute that allows us to do some of these innovative and different things allows, and then also as ESSA will hopefully allow. So I guess that's a long way of saying we're on track and looking forward to for another good year.
Anything that surprised you in the operation of it? What was the unexpected for you?
At the empowerment zone?
Yeah.
Well, I think that if you ask, Dr. Hunter and some of the new principals and leadership team there, they would just say they had no idea of just the extraordinarily high number of kids who are in special needs and the extraordinary number of kids who are what we call overage for grade. And that's basically kids who failed, at least a grade. And so just the intense support and the different thinking and the different supports that you need to address those two subgroups of students, I think they knew, but I think now they really know. So I think that the strategies that have to evolve to address those students certainly is something that was probably surprising before they really got in there and got a chance to really look at the data. Ms. Small, I think it's he wants to know that the short, like, what are the categories of teachers, whether we have the most shortage? Is it, I think it was elementary and special, special, was it?
What are you gonna do with those positions? If you said less than 100,
Yeah.
what happens to those positions are unfilled on Monday next week?
Yeah, so what we've done is, I think with some very smart thinking with our HR team, we're going to start to hire some teachers centrally and then deploy them until those seats are filled. You know, what happens in Tennessee, we have what's called mutual consent. So in order for a teacher to go to a school, the teacher has to want to be there and the principal has to want to be there. You can't force place people. So people have been going out on interviews and maybe not have found the right fit. So what we can do is place teachers in those positions until principals have an opportunity to hire permanently. I think we had around 70 teachers who were excessed last year. We didn't lay any teachers off, but teachers who were reassigned because the enrollment in the school is designed to be down. So we have those teachers on the bench, as it were, and then we're going to hire some more teachers centrally and have them on the bench and then just place them in these positions, give teachers, principals a chance to evaluate them, see them if they're a good fit, and if not, they can still fill the position, and we certainly know these teachers can float. You know, I think that the headline for me, I think, again, good work they've done. I think the vacancies this year actually will be lower than they were last year. And, you know, when you start talking about having 6,000 plus teachers and 99% staffed, I think that's a pretty good mark. Still does not in any way you know, take away from the fact that we want every class to be, you know, fully staffed with a high-performing teacher every day. So,
Every class will have a teacher on Monday, so you have a permanent teacher.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that happens every year. I mean, sometimes you have subs, and principals know, you know, where they have issues or concerns. And usually that first week or so, as you're trying to finalize your schedules, do all the things, get people acclimated and oriented, principals usually have good contingency plans for the first day anyway, first couple of days. So we're going to make sure that we get them the support they need.
Superintendent, what caused the numbers to go down? What caused the numbers to go down from 250 to now, you're saying 100 or less than?
We had a couple hiring fairs. I think we're having a couple hiring fairs. You want to speak to that, Mr. Marvin?
I mean, a couple of days ago it was 250, now you're saying it's at 100. What caused the numbers to drop more than half in those days?
That information that was released, I think, last week was probably about a week old at that point. We're continuing to hire. At this point in the school year, particularly as we get later in July, we make about 100 hires a week. So that's not uncommon. That's been the trend year over year. And day one, when school starts, we're going to continue to hire, continue to recruit until we get all of our classrooms filled.
And what grade levels you were saying before does this impact, and any specific courses?
The one area where we have the most vacancies is in our elementary schools. So elementaries, that's just considered one level for us. So that's the category where we have the most number of vacancies at this point. But there are areas where we are more critically concerned with some of those vacancies because of some of the implications, some of our secondary math and science courses, where those teachers, we need a teacher in that classroom, a licensed teacher, in order for those children to graduate. So we prioritized our vacancies that are most critical and triaging based on that critical list.
And the math certified teachers?
Yeah, I think most school districts are struggling a little bit with math. Math teachers are in high demand right now, so obviously that's number one on our list.
Those were the slides we talked about, during the school year, or we have it after the school year, after the semester?
No, I think that you start from the premise that principals get to pick their team, right? So until they're able to fill a role permanently, we will place displaced teachers, certified teachers there. So, for example, if I was excess last year because my school closed and there's a need for an elementary teacher at X school, well, if there are vacancies, we're going to take the folks who are certified and licensed and place them in that school with the understanding that the principal can still look to fill that position if they don't like the performance of the teacher there. But we made a commitment to teachers last year that we weren't going to lay anybody off. So we're going to make sure we honor that. And we think that given the consistent vacancies, you know, versus the number of teachers who are often displaced because of the decline in enrollment. It just made sense to keep the teachers on, and I'm glad we did it. And I think another thing too, like you asked a question, like I think last week was our 245 or something like that, 250, and they had, but we always have people in the queue. Like it takes a few weeks to complete the paperwork, get the fingerprints, and do all that. So I think that there was some folks who were in the queue when we gave that number, and then they've just done a good job to consistently hire. We've got 2 hire events I think over the weekend, and it's just.
Down to the wire, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, and again, I think it's, you know, you want to have 100%, but I think at the end of the day, you know, 99%, you know, obviously why not perfect is something we certainly can work with, and don't think it's going to have a negative impact on student achievement, particularly with some of the strategies that we're using early on.
And Superintendent, with the current investigation going on into grade discrepancies, is there any changes that the district has made in terms of making sure that grades are accounted for accurately, that transcripts are looked over more than a couple of times?
No, I think that we have a robust process that's always been in place for how grades are changed and the paperwork that's needed and the training that goes on, and we do that every single year. I think that, you know, given the intense focus and community interest in what happened at Tresvant, there were a lot of people that threw out kind of a lot of issues that aren't necessarily, that shouldn't have been conflated. For example, I saw some reports of people saying, hey, I'm a teacher and they told me to change the grade. Well, there are a myriad of instances where changing the grade is appropriate. The issue is not whether you change the grade, but rather whether there's a legitimate reason to change the grade, and if there's a legitimate reason to change the grade, whether the process to do it is followed. So I'm confident in the processes that we had. In fact, we had a meeting with our board a few weeks ago. We kind of laid out the process and all that. So, I mean, there was no aha moment, like, you know, we need to do this, we need to do that. We just need to consistently make sure that, you know, people follow the rules and hold people accountable when they don't.
Is there any timeline, can you, expand a little bit on where you are with the current investigation?
Yeah, so I know we'll be briefing the board. Some of the outside counsels will be briefing the board. I'm not exactly sure of the time frame because I haven't been briefed on it yet, but I think we'll know more in terms of how long we expect for it to last and wrap up and all that sometime in the next week or so. And our outside counsels will brief the board and myself, and then we'll let you guys know.
Initially, the review is supposed to, transcripts is supposed to,
I think it's still ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you because of the plane.
I think it's still, I believe it's still ongoing. I don't think it hadn't completed.
well, there's 2 different investigations, right? The review by the state and also the review by the special investigative team. Do we know the timeline on the special investigative team? Is that the one you were referring to?
Yeah, both of them really still ongoing. I don't really want to speculate because what happens is in any good investigation, you go where the facts, you know, lead you. So, you know, we obviously have been very transparent in saying we want to figure out what happened. So, you know, we certainly wouldn't say to somebody, well, hurry up and get it done. We want them to do it right. So I think that once they lay out to me and the board where we are and the legal implications, I think we'll be able to answer better.
Do you expect the investigation to go beyond Tresvant?
I expect that investigation to go where it leads. You know, I think at the end of the day, what happened at Tresvant, you know, as I watched the different stories and they get conflated, was very specific. So it wasn't that there was people were changing grades on the report card. The allegation and what we found was that somebody was taking the grades on the report card that were right and then changing the transcript. You know, so it wasn't that you had teachers or somebody was changing at the report card level. It was somebody very specifically. And, you know, the reality is that it's just an example of how you can have, you know, people come to work and do everything right every single day, but then a few people do something wrong and it just puts a black eye on everybody. So what we know happened was there was report cards with the right grade, and somebody was directing people in the office to change the transcript. So when the transcript went out to colleges and football teams and things of that nature, they didn't match what was on the report card. And as I said, there's a full process for it. Like if you have for example, you get your report card and it's just wrong. Parent comes up and says, hey, I'm looking at my grades, this was wrong. There's a whole process that's needed that you go through with proper documentation to change the transcript, and it just wasn't followed here. So I guess that's a long way to say, like, I'm you know, I don't want to speak too much on the investigation, but, you know, I'm not aware of other allegations that there was, you know, this mass transcript, improper transcript changes. But obviously, if that comes up during the investigation, it'll go where it leads.
Superintendent, real quick, we're kind of on back to school business. One of the things.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Pushing this week, is just the regular stuff for parents and immunization. Why is that so important, you know, in this day and age? We've always talked about it, but you've heard backlash from, you know, some parents across the country talk about that.
So I want to turn it over to Dr. Ray. Now, Dr. Ray's done a really good job of helping to revamp our immunization process. And that's really one of the things that's not sexy about school. And sometimes, you know, the old records pile up and, you know, we got to do a whole lot better on that. So I want to turn it over to Dr. Ray.
Thank you, Superintendent Hopson. Well, we follow the guidance from the health department, and so it's important for all of our students to be immunized. So we have several locations around the city. We have a block party here, and that's what we're going to do, immunize students and just get them geared up for school.
Superintendent, you talk about security. How is it going to be this year? Is this the second year since MPD no longer provides security in the schools? Are you looking at this year with just your resource officer as well as the Shelby County Deputy Resource Officer?
So I'll turn it over to Chief Darling, but I think what's remarkable is last year, the first year with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, almost double-digit decrease across the board in all the major categories we measure, you know, simple assaults and all the things, all the bad things. So I think that they did a great job last year, and I'm assuming that we're teed up and ready to go for an even better year.
Yes, we're prepared to go in the school year with the same group of resource officers and support from Shelby County Sheriff's Office. We also have a partnership with MPD with our Safe Quarter passages, where we will be enlisting their help in some of the areas where our students walk back and forth to school, and they're going to be doing that in the morning and after school. So we're looking forward to a great year working with them, and we have a joint partnership with all our law enforcement partners. Even though they're not actually in the schools, they're welcome to come into the schools. We partner with them with their COPS program. They come in and do programs such as Crime Watch inside the schools and form Crime Watch boards inside the schools. So they're still very active in the school because of the issues in and around the city of Memphis. They can't be in the schools every day, but I know the director wished that he could support us just like he's done for the last 30-plus years.
Is it going to be a challenge providing security in the safe corridors with Memphis Police Department as their complement may drop down to?
No, it won't be, because we were able to successfully get federal grants to assist and pay them overtime to do this. So we won't be taking any officers off the regular beat to do this. So we'll be compensating them through a grant that we secured from the federal government and the state to assist us with this.
Talking about actual physical bodies.
They have the physical bodies. They've committed the bodies. If the officers choose to work overtime to assist us, they will. And if they can't find a contingent, they will be working, particularly those hours that we need before school and after school.
Mr. Superintendent, starting another school year, how would you describe the relationship between the school system and the charter schools in particular? Where is that at?
I think that's probably evolving. You know, people seem to like to create a narrative of us versus them. I think I know I can speak for myself, and I think I can speak for the board. You know, the board is not anti-charter schools in any respects. I mean, I think we have almost 70 charter schools in Memphis, in addition to the 30 or so charter schools, I think, with the ASD. I think that the focus, I know for me and, you know, for the board, is we just want good schools. We have a lot of schools that operate here that do well, but then we also have a lot that don't. And what's the frustrating part, I think, for me is just really the utter lack of clear regulations for charter schools. Because when the charter school law was initially written in 2001 or whatever, I think there was a cap for charter schools, and I'm sure nobody could contemplate that there'd be 70 charter schools and they'd be all here in Shelby County. So when schools, you know, for example, tell us they're going to locate one place and then 2 or 3 days before school don't have somewhere to locate and then operate somewhere else, and the law doesn't really give us a remedy to properly monitor that, it creates confusion and frustration. And that confusion and frustration is usually dumped on our board's lap, and then they've got to try to work to deal with an issue that the legislature has not provided them with the tools to fix. But I do think at the end of the day, I hope that the whole schools community in Shelby County can start to focus on quality. We've closed, you know, it's not fun, not a secret. I mean, we've closed close to 30 schools over the past few years, and the driver for that has been quality, along with other issues. And, you know, we have a lot of partners in the charter community who work with us, but I don't see a lot of focus on, you know, quality. It seems to be quantity is what most of the discussion is on. So, you know, we're going to continue to work with charter schools. I mean, A, the law requires it, and then B, some charter schools do a really good job, and we want to make sure that we continue to support them. I think the ASD is a separate issue. You know, we're not really quite sure, you know, what the long-term vision there is anymore. We've had a number of things happen over the past few months that have caused, quite frankly, a lot of angst, you know, for families. And, you know, inevitably when things happen, then those families turn back to the Shelby County School Board and the Shelby County Schools for solutions. For example, I'm thinking about, you know, Klondike. They decided to close, you know, really without a lot of explanation. And then I'm thinking about the whole issue with Aspire Coleman that, you know, played out, you know, in a way where it made it seem like the school board was being unreasonable, when in fact, you know, we were just following the law. So, you know, a lot of work from the policy standpoint that has to happen over the next few years to make sure that the focus on all schools, whether it's district-run schools or charter schools, is on quality, and hopefully alleviate some of these, you know, secondary and divisive issues.
Superintendent, there's a question I wanted to ask you.
Take the last question over here, and then any follow-ups, we can take them after individually with their specific needs.
Something I wanted to ask you, the sort of investigation you source. Last meeting, there was a bunch of bacteria detection from one school that was concerned about conditions within the space. Is that being addressed?
Yeah, we're still really waiting. I think that the the executive director out of Atlanta was here with them and really kind of meeting them and getting to know them. I did have a conversation, and it's my understanding that we'll learn more about what some of the issues are. You know, but obviously, you know, you got to take care of your people. You know, you got to make sure that you have, you know, good working conditions, because at the end of the day, the lifeblood of our organization is people. So I know that Beth, you know, heard those concerns, and she's committed, and I'm committed to making sure that we treat people fairly. So I'm sure there'll be more on that to come. Yeah, not as of now, but I'm sure that, you know, we'll have some follow-up conversations.